timeline we're playing with right now is obviously we're trying to get out of here tonight. We know it's 24 hours to, at bare minimum to get out to the reef.
Hopefully if we can get enough of the boat off, it'll make a difference if we can get back in the race or not. There can be a better outcome out of it than just removing everything, so fingers crossed. We made some pretty big statements early on saying that we'd come back and clean up the reef, and none of the locals expect us to be back because no one comes back here to clean up. It's too remote, it's too harsh, and it's too difficult. And you know, I'm really proud that we've done what we said and we've come back and cleaned it up.
First, let me start by saying that you know, my wife is Australian, so I've been down here quite a few times. I've seen the Sydney Hobart start several times, and I've become good friends with Peyron over the years, and he sort of challenged me to do something like this. And Kenny and I would, Kenny Reed, the captain and director of my program, it was the skipper of Hahnemann, which is the copy of Endeavour II. We had many of the crew that were on that, racing that for a couple of years, are on this boat. They're from all over the world, but Kenny had been a couple of times in the Volvo series, in the Volvo 70, and the fellows that we got to design it very much into designing these open ocean round the world racers, and so this is sort of, if you will, a Volvo 70 on steroids. It's really an unusual design, pretty radical, and I think, you know, if I had wanted to build a boat just for the Sydney Hobart, I would have taken the most famous, successful boat of all time in that race and copied it. But instead, I built, you know, we designed a boat to be in open ocean races and try to break records in perfect beam conditions, wind conditions. This boat, Comanche, will be a very fast boat in beam wind conditions, and it sort of means to be seen. It seemed in this harbor race the other day it did okay upwind against Wild Oats, but we'll just have to wait and see. The conditions can be, in the Sydney Hobart can change, and even today I don't think anyone knows what they're going to be like when we start. But it's probably the most radical boat design in this race. Built in the U.S. in large part because we know a boatyard in Maine that was capable of building it. They just needed the oven, so they chose to build the oven for it. And then we hired a bunch of Aussies to come up and do the carbon layup and manage that process, the actual building of it. But it just got launched a few weeks before it had to get on. Maybe a week and a half before it had to get on a container ship to get down here in time to be in this race. So it's hardly been in the water. That race the other day was certainly the first race, the harbor race. We chose to put all no powered winches. I suppose there's one powered winch up front that's for furling the big sails in front, but we have grinders for everything else. And when it comes to a race like the transatlantic record, that saves you a couple of 3 tons at the beginning because you're not burning as much fuel in crossing the Atlantic. So we wanted to have a nice, as light a weight as we could for the whole trip. And but it isn't perfect for around the buoys. Grinding is. We had a bunch of exhausted guys the other day at the end of that race. Anyway, we're happy to be here. We've got a lot of Aussies. We've got Kiwis, we've got Americans, so it's a multinational boat as well.
Look who we found walking around the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. It's the French legend Loick Peyron, who's just won the Route de Rome, Guadeloupe. Loick, welcome to Australia.
Oh, thank you. I'm quite happy to be here. Really, that's the first time ever I'm in Australia. First time ever I'm in this very notorious and very famous yacht club. Especially a few days before the race of the year here, the race. Quite exciting.
You wouldn't want to be going on it?
I'd like to. I have quite a lot of friends sailing on different boats, on big ones and smaller ones. And one day I will be back sailing and racing against you guys, for sure.
We'd love to see you here.
I'd like to.
So what are you in Australia for?
Just family trip. Road trip from Sydney in a few days. On Boxing Day we are going to leave to Melbourne with a big van with my 4 kids who are here. And my plan is to do the Moth Worlds in Sorrento, starting beginning of January. And sharing this passion of flying with other guys, with 150 other boats, and especially also with my fellows from the Artemis racing team from the America's Cup, especially Nathan Eldridge, the actual holder of the World Moths title. And then, in my case, I'm going to be at the back of the fleet, for sure, no problem for that. I didn't sail since a year, but that's, as you know, I love to discover and to try to discover any kind of sailing. I don't care about the size of the boat, I care about the pleasure.
Well, the word of the year has got to be the Route de Rome to Guadeloupe. You got on the boat, Banque Populaire, 2 months beforehand?
2 months before the start. That's a crazy story, in fact. 3 months before the start, I mean last summer, in September, I was preparing the Rome race, but on the very, very, very small old style, the yellow, happy trimaran. That was my plan, and it's going to be my plan again in 4 years' time, for sure. But I was happy, on my little happy, and suddenly I had a phone call from a good friend, the boss of the team Banque Populaire, and he said to me, we have a problem. Hello, Houston, we have a problem. Our skipper just injured his hand, and we are looking for someone, and we thought about you. And I said, no, sorry, that's not mine. It's not anymore my cup of tea. I said that 12 years ago that I didn't want to do any kind of other crazy stories on multi-hills. I was not dreaming anymore. And a few hours after, I called him back and say, why not? Okay, let's try it. So I had a few conditions. I wanted to try to see if my little body was strong enough to be able to hoist the main, at least that. That's a huge vessel, a huge trimaran made for 10 or 10, 12 crew. So being alone on a boat like that, that's not easy. And slowly but surely, quite fast, in 2 months and a half time, I did manage to train a lot, to trust in the team, I knew very well in fact, to trust in the boat. And start in Saint-Malo, and 7 days after win this race, which I've done 7 times in fact. That's funny. That's a very, very short part of a very...
Well, what was it like being on a boat that size, by yourself, having to work all the sails in a very competitive situation?
That's really hard, but very interesting. I love this sort of game for sure, because that's not only hopefully a physical one. That's a physical défi, that's a physical problem for sure, but you need to manage it with your brain, especially on the big one. You need to anticipate a lot, you need to think ahead a lot, all the time. You need to visualize any kind of situation, you need to do a lot of things like that, and that's why white hairs, I should say, are in good shape for that, because we don't know exactly what experience means. It means that you know something, you never remember where you've learned something, but by the time you need it, you have it. And I was quite surprised to recover my reflexes. I was afraid to have lost these special skills you need when you are alone on a multi-hull like that, because in 5 seconds you may capsize, because you need to be able to sleep, to fall in sleep, even in a very, very aggressive area. I mean, at night, against the sea, very fast, at 30 knots plus average. Everything is not made for you to help you to fall in sleep. And that's the game, that's the key of the game. And I thought I didn't train enough for that. Because it's impossible to train if you are not alone. If you are doing a lot of training session when you are alone on the boat with a part of crew just to watch, which we've done to minimize the risk before the race, it's not easy to be in the special situation, which is when you are alone on a multi-hull racing. Whatever. And it came back in a better shape than I ever thought, I ever hoped. And the boat was one of the best ones, for sure. I was not the best one at the start, for sure, but with a lot of experience. And Thomas Covin, my good friend who is here, who was the favorite for me of the race, had a big problem the first night. He hit a cargo ship, and so on and so on. That's the story of life and the story of racing, and that's a nice story.
So what did you average? What speed?
I think that's 22, something like that, 22, 23. That's quite a lot alone, yeah, but the boat is made for that. But you have to support it. Yeah, that's the main thing. That's why I have a lot of white hairs, you know. I'm not so old, but that's it.
So what does 2015 bring you, like?
Back with my friends, with the Artemis team, for the Cup. Next Cup is in Bermuda in 2 years' time now, in 2017. And we have a lot of things to do. Our base is still in Alameda, in California, near San Francisco. So we're going to start, let's say, the season by the Moth Worlds, with the Moth Worlds, in Sorrento in a few weeks' time. And back to San Francisco, working a lot, flying, and I'm a test pilot, part of the member of the design team and the head office. And that's such a pleasure to be part of the team.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome
thank you.
to Australia. Thank you.
And what a tremendous effort you've done.
Oh, you know, it's by far, it's by far the most satisfying, that's for sure. You know, we had a real race. The great thing about this race was that it was a full-on race. We had a lot of competition from Comanche from day one, from the start, and we had to really work hard for the whole thing, and and it paid off. So it was very rewarding. The boat went unbelievably well, and you see how far in front of the other maxis were apart from Comanche. Comanche's the latest and greatest, and man, watching that thing go at the harbour was impressive. Yeah, well, we made the move yesterday morning, and we put a lot of miles on those guys over a 10-hour period, which we were pretty surprised how many we actually put in. But the weather helped us a little bit there as well. And then, they sailed back. It was well and truly, they took 30 to 40 miles out of us again today. So it was a real game of snakes and ladders, as I said before the race, and we're just lucky to get the last go.